William Hill Vegas sponsors Frampton versus Quigg on Sky Sports Box Office.
Radio Raheem here with Eddie Hearn. We are now, 48 hours or so ahead of this fight, and you've talked about many times the difference between the British fans and the kind of tickets you sell here and the American audience, and maybe Britain is the place to be. Well, we've got an announcement here in the last few days that Amir Khan is coming here to announce Monday to announce Canelo. I've got to get your thoughts on that. And how do you feel about the decision he's made to face Canelo?
I think it's a good decision. I think it's a good move. I understand the move. It's a no-lose move. You know, you get beat to Canelo and everyone says, oh, you took the fight. Congratulations, you moved up weight divisions to fight the best. So I think that, going back to the Kell Brook fight, and listen, it's been said and done and everyone's bored of talking about it now. That was the main problem in the Kell Brook fight. I feel like he knew that if he lost that fight, I still believe he believed he would have won it, but if he lost it, there's no way back for him. If he loses to Canelo, then, fair enough.
Amir's made such a big deal about Floyd not willing to fight him, and he can't get the Pacquiao fight, and people are dodging him for big paydays, but yet he won't give Kell Brook that same opportunity that he's asking for other fighters. Why do you honestly think that is?
Well, he's not giving him a payday. They're giving each other a payday. I think this is the same with this fight. Carl always felt that I'm giving him a payday. No. In order to achieve this kind of payday, you need a dance partner. That's Scott Quigg, and for Amir Khan, it's Kell Brook. But listen, Amir had other options. He's landed himself a big fight, so you can't knock him for that. But I think it just came down to two things. One, he didn't want to give Kell Brook that kind of opportunity, and two, he was concerned about losing the fight.
When it comes
and where he went from there if he did.
Right. Even up here today, I've got other options. I've got many others. You've got no other options. Obviously, the question is asked, what other options does Kell Brook have? There's no fight out there like Amir Khan. So if Amir Khan's unwilling to be the other dance partner, what do? How do you get Brook to that status, to that level of payday?
Well, Kell Brook is very lucky. He's the world champion in the 147-pound division. So you're not talking about a guy here who's a contender, who's trying to get a shot. You're talking about a guy who's got a belt. The problem is he's very good. And another problem is everyone in the game knows how good he is. Peter Nelson came on to me and said, oh, I'd love to do Cotto Brook, June the 13th, New York. Tell us where to sign. Okay, let me speak to Rock Nation and Cotto. I know what they would have done. They would have looked at Kell Brook and gone, why? Why fight this kid? He's an exceptional young fighter. So you need a fighter who wants to gamble, or someone that has something to gain through taking the fight. And those kind of guys are perhaps a Tim Bradley, Tim Bradley I think is one of the few fighters that we would come to the UK. Hopefully he beats Pacquiao. I say that because I want to make Brook Bradley. But even if he doesn't, and he's in a great fight, that's an opportunity. Thurman against Poulter in a unification is a great fight. Obviously that's slowed down now. Danny Garcia is a fight we'd absolutely jump all over. Pacquiao. Moving to 154. There are a lot of options, and he's world champion. So I'm okay. Let's deal with Kevin Bizier first on the 26th of March. And people say, oh, that'll be a stroll in the park. When you've got someone that's hungry for your world title belt, it's never always a stroll in the park. So stay switched on for that fight, and we'll deal with the business after.
You've been willing to work with Al Heyman in the past, in this fight, in fact. Sure. That Danny Garcia-Kell Brook fight makes a lot of sense. Has there been any discussion? What do you think the likelihood is that fight can get made?
Always discussions. I talk to Al Heyman's team probably 2 or 3 times every day. We work very well with a young man called Luis de Cubas Jr., who shares my passion for boxing, and we get a lot of business done together. And we're always talking about Kell Brook. And, I told him now, Kell Brook will fight Danny Garcia. Kell Brook will fight the winner. He'll do it in America. He'll do it in the UK, wherever you want to be. Kell Brook's ready to roll the dice in his career. He's had injury setbacks. He had the stabbing incident as well, which set him back 6 months. So he feels like he has a lot of ground to make up. We had the Chavez fight. He got injured. Now, that would have been a nice fight for him in October to move forward in the new year. Now we have to deal with Bizier, and then we roll the dice with anybody who wants it at 147 and maybe even 154.
Before I let the Canelo Khan fight go, if I could put your analyst hat on, break that fight down for me. How do you think that fight's going to unfold?
Amir is a super talented fighter. He's someone that's just come up into the welterweight division. Now he's moving to light middleweight and probably middleweight overnight. Canelo, we've seen him outboxed by Floyd Mayweather. I think Floyd is on another level. to Amir Khan. Amir is good enough to be competitive in the fight, but he's not strong enough or big enough to stand up to Canelo's power, and I see him getting stopped in that fight.
And lastly, I'll be back.
I hope I'm wrong, by the way. I generally hope I'm wrong, but that's my gut feeling and honest belief about the fight.
Before I let you go, obviously there's another big fight right on the horizon after this one. You've got Anthony Joshua. He's fighting Martin. It's an opportunity for Anthony Joshua really to explode on the world stage as a world champion for the first time. But is the challenge against Martin up to the level of accolades that Joshua will get? I guess there's a lot been said about whether or not Martin is a true champion himself.
Yeah, it's a 50-50 fight. I see the odds of 6-1 on for Joshua. It's ridiculous. You've got two undefeated fighters that can hit very hard. Martin is a 6'5", awkward southpaw. He's not someone you'd look at and say, yeah, we want him as an opponent. But he carries a world title belt. We expected this opportunity in 3 or 4 fights' time. It has come too early for us. But, when I spoke to the team, I said, all you have to do is make the decision. Can you beat Charles Martin now? And if the answer is yes, or even if the answer is yes, I think I can, you have to take this fight. Because you have to always value and evaluate the risk and reward. The risk is high, but the reward is just, for Joshua, it's not just for someone to become heavyweight champion of the world. For Anthony Joshua to become heavyweight champion of the world makes him the biggest star in world boxing, in my opinion. And that's what you're gambling with. And sometimes you've got to roll the dice.
You're calling it a 50-50 fight. There'll be a lot of people who are skeptical of that analysis. And what you had to deal with was...
only because I rate Charles Martin. I've known about him for a long time, through Michael King, people that have developed him a long time. I've watched him. He hasn't boxed anyone of any note. Glasgow was his biggest test, and obviously he suffered an injury. So we don't know. There's a lot of unknowns. All I can tell you is I met the man in London, and he was very impressive, very imposing, very confident, and very big. And I believe this is a very tough fight. I'm hoping Anthony's speed will blind him, and I'm hoping that will be the difference.
And without disrespecting Charles Martin, obviously he is legitimately the champion, but the kind of thing you've had to deal with Quigg, people calling him a paper champion and whatnot, he didn't really win the title. If Anthony Joshua wins the world title this way, are you concerned, or let me put it this way, do you feel like he'll then immediately have to challenge another world champion, kind of legitimize having earned the strap, beating a guy who's, legitimately considered having earned it himself?
No, because I think that Charles Martin is a good fighter. If it was a guy who was just some bum who fluked a world title, it'd be different. But Anthony knows in a real test, and you'll see that on April 9th, by the way. You're not going to see this one-sided demolition from a guy who's turned up who can't, he shouldn't be in there. You're talking about a guy who's a quality fighter, who's ranked number 2 in the world and top 5 of other governing bodies before he fought Glasgow. So, he's a good fighter. The big fights will come, and whether he gets respect, Anthony, as a world champion on April 9th, which he should do, or whether that comes in 1 fight, 2 fight, 3 fight time, you can't be worrying about that. You've got to worry about your own business, and people's opinions will be people's opinions.
Eddie Hearn, I always appreciate the time. It's a pleasure to talk to you. Radio Raheem with Eddie Hearn. And listen, there's a big fight before the ones we've discussed today. This Saturday at Manchester Arena, Scott Quigg, Carl Frampton. Is going to be explosive war. Don't miss it. William Hill, Vegas. Radio Raheem, Eddie Hearn.
William Hill, Vegas sponsors Frampton versus Quigg on Sky Sports Box Office.